Hello, in this video we will be talking about making inferences in literature. Let's begin by talking about what does it mean to make an inference. When you think of the word inference, think of a detective. A detective has to use clues along with everything they know to make a good guess about something. That's exactly what you do when you make an inference as a reader. You take your background knowledge. When you come to 6th grade, you already have had a lot of experiences and know many things. That's your background knowledge. So you use your background knowledge plus clues or evidence from the text, what the author tells you. So you take your background knowledge plus clues from the text, and you put those two pieces together to make a good guess. As you are reading more difficult books, especially in 6th grade, an author will not tell you everything in the story. The author trusts you to make inferences to better understand the story. Let's practice making an inference. Let's say you came home from school today and there was a sweet smell coming from the kitchen. What could you infer? You could infer that someone was baking cookies or maybe a cake, hopefully for you. How did you infer this? You inferred this based on your background knowledge. You know that when you smell something sweet, it's usually cookies or cakes or a sweet treat. You used the clues. There was something baking in the oven and a smell was coming from the kitchen. And you put those two pieces together to infer that somebody baked you a sweet treat. We do the same thing when we read. Suppose you are reading a story in which a character is frowning as Jim is rushing around, opening drawers, lifting up the couch cushions, and looking under the bed. What could you infer about Jim based on his actions? We look at the story details to provide us evidence. Jim is rushing around, opening drawers, lifting up couch cushions, and looking under the bed. All those actions we know from our experience are things you do when you're looking for something. So we can infer that Jim feels worried because something is missing. Notice nowhere in this sentence did it say that Jim was worried about something was missing, but we could infer it based on what we read and what we already knew. You've all heard the story of Pinocchio, the wooden boy who came to life. Each time he lies, his nose grows. Later in the story, Pinocchio says he had been to school and zoink, his nose grows. Now the author doesn't say at this particular point in the story that Pinocchio lied, but you can make an inference, a conclusion based on what you already know and the text evidence that he did. Good inferences are supported with textual evidence. So let's practice this with the text. I want you to read that first paragraph and think of yourself as a detective. As you read, be thinking about what we could infer about the narrator. It says, Abraham Lincoln once said, "Whatever you are, be a good one." Easy for him to say. He was good at everything. It's nice advice, I guess. Still, you can say that you're going to be good at playing the piano. You can even say that you'll perform beautifully at the big recital. You can say that all you want, and you can still forget the notes to your song halfway through and run off the stage in tears. I wonder what Lincoln would have said about that. He probably wouldn't have felt as miserable as I do right now, at the very least. let's see what we can infer about the narrator. Remember, we said when we make an inference, we take what we know plus what the narrator says to make a good inference. We know that people sometimes feel bad when embarrassed. We've all been in embarrassing situations before, and we know how bad that makes us feel. Now, let's look for textual evidence. What does the narrator say? One piece of evidence that the narrator says is that still you can say that you're going to be good at playing the piano. Notice, this is a piece of textual evidence, and whenever we cite textual evidence, we put quotation marks to show that we took these words straight from the text. I can go right up into the text and find these words. Still, you can say that you're going to be good playing the piano. So we know that the narrator had said he was going to be good at playing the piano. What else did the narrator say? He says, again, we're taking this right from the text, so we put quotation marks. You can say that all you want, and you can still forget the notes to your song. Go right up here. These words are right in the text. You can say that all you want, and you can still forget the notes to your song. So we put quotation marks around it, and everything in here are words we took straight up from the text. These aren't words we made up. Is there anything else that the narrator says to help us make an inference about the narrator? He says he probably wouldn't have felt as miserable as I do right now. Again, we add that to our place where we keep our textual evidence. There's quotation marks to say, hey, these words came from the text. Everything in between the quotation marks came straight from the text. So, what do we know? We know that people sometimes feel bad when they're embarrassed. What did the author tell us in the text? He told us that the narrator said you can say you're going to be good at playing the piano. That the narrator said you can say you're going to be good and still forget the notes to your song. And the narrator said he probably wouldn't feel as miserable as I do right now. So when I take what I know plus what the narrator says and put those together, we can infer that the narrator has just had a bad experience performing in a piano recital. Now notice, nowhere up here did it say directly, the narrator has had a bad experience performing in a piano recital. But we can infer that because we know he's feeling miserable. He had said he would be good at playing the piano, and then he said he forgot the notes to his song. And we know that people are embarrassed or feel bad when something embarrassing happens. So we made a good inference that the narrator just had a bad experience performing in a piano recital. When reading, always support your inferences with textual evidence. An unsupported inference won't make your nose grow an inch, but you won't be on your way to be a better understanding of the story either.